So I think I'm the definition of coming off the bench. If you expect to hear about iron ore in the Northern Territory, I do apologise because we're about 1,500 kilometres away from anything like that. I suppose I'll start with our most recent news. So 2 weeks ago, I announced that we sold one of our licences for twice the market cap of the company. The market still hasn't responded, so maybe they're waiting for the sale to complete. But there you go, that's part of the disconnect between the market and what actually happens in the real world. So New Guinea Energy, I promised that I'll only use one slide, but I need to go through two to get to that one slide. So there's the opening slide and then the disclaimer around anything I say you can't hold it against me. And now we're on to the rest of the conversation. So for the next 15 minutes, you're only going to look at one map, and that's partly as a reminder that you're not looking at the Northern Territory and we're not talking about iron ore. What we are talking about is oil and gas in Papua New Guinea. So again, I went through the list of previous presenters, and there's very few oil and gas presentations I noticed. So I'll try to refrain from using oil and gas nomenclature and stick to dollars, because that's what you can mostly, I imagine, mostly relate to. So I'll start with PNG as a start. So Papua New Guinea is just about to have its biggest ever project go live. It's a project called PNG LNG. So all of those LNG trains that are being built up in Gladstone, there's also been a big construction going on in Papua New Guinea. It starts in the highlands of Papua New Guinea and goes all the way down to Port Moresby, where there's 2 trains of LNG. It's being led by Exxon, and the other bigger players are Oil Search and Santos. That project's gone on for many years, and as I said, will launch in the 3rd quarter of this year. It's cost $19 billion, but for a $19 billion investment, it has an IRR of above 19%. So what that means is from the first full year of production onwards, those that have invested in PNG LNG will be recouping more than $4.5 billion of free cash every year. And of course the government will be receiving a very large tax revenue on the back of it. So all of the gold and copper mining that's gone on in PNG will be swamped by oil and gas. It's just about to do a huge transformation, which is great for the country. It really is. So I'll start that because that's the big context of oil and gas. Oil and gas is booming in Papua New Guinea. If you were a smart investor, you would have invested in real estate in Port Moresby 4 or 5 years ago, because right now, if you wanted to rent a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment in Port Moresby, it's about $2,500 every week. So it's a happening place, and that's the context, being dominated. Now I arrived into New Guinea Energy. My background's I was in BP. I'm obviously Australian, but worked for BP for 22 years, 10 cities in 22 years. So sort of worked around the world. Every 2 or 3 years, I was sent to another place, and worked in exploration, refining, trading, marketing, head office. So I probably approached this from a big oil mentality, and I came into New Guinea Energy 2.5 years ago, and saw that NG had a huge portfolio. At the time, it was the biggest acreage in Papua New Guinea, which is great. PNG is very prospective, underexplored, and the big areas of gas discoveries are those in the highlands of Papua New Guinea, which pretty much run from northwest to southeast. Now, the highlands is a really misleading statement. When I heard of the highlands of PNG, I reminisced of when I lived in Scotland for a while, and at the back of Aberdeen you have these rolling hills. In the PNG highlands there are 14 peaks higher than any mountain in Austria. So while we call it the Austrian Alps, for some reason we call it the PNG highlands. And the difficulty of those highlands is that it's all tropical forest. So it's an incredibly tough terrain to work in, and very expensive. There are huge gas discoveries in those highland areas. 15 TCF. Now TCF, to convert, if you can commercialise a TCF in Papua New Guinea, every TCF is probably worth about $2 billion net present value. So that's the sort of, it's very prospective, but very expensive. The very big gas discoveries in PNG occurred more than 3 decades ago. And so that gas has been sitting there for 30, 35 years. NGE picked up acreage all in those highlands areas. And for a small company, that's great to pick up, but it's very difficult to commercialise. To put it into perspective, if you wanted to drill in the highlands, the very last well that was drilled cost $160 million, and it was a duster. And even if you are successful in discovering, you have to work out how to commercialise it, how to get it out of there. For gas, you need a customer, which sounds fairly simple, but you need to be able to pipe to a customer, and in Papua New Guinea, there's not a big enough demand for the size of gas discoveries that are there. So to be able to commercialise any gas, you need to not just pipe it down to near the shore, but then also build an LNG plant, and that's why it's cost $19 billion and 35 years to start to make money from these big gas discoveries. Back to NGE, we had this great acreage in the highlands, which is the pink areas there. We're a small market cap company, less than $20 million. I couldn't work out how I could raise $160 million to try to drill one well. And then secondly, how I could even make money from if I was successful. So we've been embarking on a strategy of what I call monetising the gas assets so that we can concentrate on oil exploration and earn revenues. So what we've done to monetise these gas assets, just before Christmas of 2012, we sold one of the licences that runs parallel to the PNG LNG infrastructure. And we sold that for a 3-part deal, $15 million up front, which we received. If Exxon and Oil Search are successful in drilling, so if they spend their $160 million and find something, they'll then pay us $20 million for that privilege. And then we have a royalty that sits over the top of it, which is the first time in Papua New Guinea that royalties have been set up for oil and gas. Now, to put it into perspective, if they find 2 TCF, I've just picked a number, 2 TCF, then that whole deal's probably worth more than $300 million to us, which is pretty good for a small market cap company. They need to be successful, but we're cheering them on from the sidelines. And then just 2 weeks ago, I announced that we were selling another of our licences in the Highlands, which is further up in the northwest, right near Oktedi Mine. If you are trying to gauge where things are, we're right near Oktedi Mine. So we own 50% of that licence. We sold that for $32 million US up front. And again, if they're successful, so we sold it to Santos, if they're successful, they'll pay us another $8 million. So by monetising those gas assets, we've reduced the need to raise capital, and subsequently dilute shareholders. We've taken out the risk, and we're monetising now rather than trying to drill and hopefully find a way to commercialise, which quite frankly it takes decades and hundreds if not billions of dollars, and I just didn't think that was realistic. So we've done that. Well, the sale completion is obviously due to, it relies on a number of conditions precedent and government approvals, but that should be able to go through fairly easily. It's no coincidence that we've sold those assets to the 3 companies that own more than 75% of that $19 billion project. Sorry. So we've now locked in with Exxon, Oil Search and Santos, which I'm pretty happy with. That then frees us up to concentrate on oil exploration. Oil is closer to the coast, which now the difference between oil and gas is, while gas you need pipelines and infrastructure and customers, or if not LNG plants. For oil you just need a vessel, a container. If you're in the desert, as long as you have a truck, then you can make money. If you're in Papua New Guinea, if you're near export routes, which are mostly waterways, so rivers, you can use barges. And that's the way that we would intend to commercialise discoveries. Now, the size of the discoveries or the targets that we're looking for down on the southern coast, around 20 million barrels of recoverable oil, converting that to real language, that's about $400 to $500 million targets. Now you need money to be able to do that. To drill in that sort of area costs around $20 million, so that's the next target, or next challenge. We need to run seismic, which probably costs around $5 million. To de-risk it even further, we have one target that's been independently assessed by Gaffney Klein, which says they think it's more than $20 million, but you really do need to de-risk it a little further, probably spend about $5 million to then target the $500 million opportunity. So those that are interested in throwing $5 million, then please see me after the presentation and I'll have a chat to you. But it's big. For a 20 million market cap company, we've commercialised the gas, potentially large revenues coming in on the back of that, and then we target the really big step change oil exploration. And the final string to our bow is that we own a drilling rig company. Well, we own 50% of a drilling rig company. We won a contract for that rig just at the back end of last year to be used by another relatively a company that's been in the news recently, so Interoil. So they're keen on doing quite a bit of exploration. We needed to get through government approvals, and there was all sorts of issues, which is another whole story that, again, I can speak to you afterwards. But we finally got government approvals just last week, which means that we can deploy the rig in country. And the importance of that is that for a junior exploration company to actually have revenue is a big deal. The income that we get just from leasing out our rig for one well covers our fixed costs for an entire year. So multiple wells means that we're actually making a profit for a junior explorer. That's fairly unusual. So we're quite keen to get that rig used and keep your eye out. Hopefully over the next few weeks, and we'll be making announcements which basically suggest that not only have we got large capital injection on its way, but we'll have income very shortly as well. So that's all I was going to present. I'm not sure if I've gone my 15 or 20 minutes. I could spend a lot of time talking about all sorts of war stories in Papua New Guinea, but I figured, given that you came to hear about iron ore in the Northern Territory, I may have taken too much of your time already.